Hi everybody. So this is the first video of section 7, which starts off with PEMDAS, or the order of operations. And eventually this is going to be a multi set of videos because it's going to eventually go into algebra, expressions, and equations. But we're starting off with order of operations. So good note taking. Start with your title. This is section 7. Okay, with what it's about. And before we go into the problems, okay, I want to talk about what I alluded to in some of the section 6 videos about the order of operations. So we know that they start off with parentheses, and then the next step is supposed to be to do any exponents. And now I talked about this being more of a hierarchy in my mind, because this would be multiplication and division, okay, depending on what comes first in the problem. And then this would be addition and subtraction, depending on what goes first in the problem, okay? And it's important to look at the MD and the AS levels, because you're not going to do one necessarily before the other, okay? The MD and AS levels are done from left to right. So if there's division before multiplication, you would do the division first. If there's subtraction before addition, you would do the subtraction first. Okay, so this, I like this a little better because it just talks about the hierarchy of it, and it doesn't make you necessarily go in a particular order. Okay, if you want, you can even reverse them, MD or DM depending, and then AS or SA depending. Okay, they're just going to be done from left to right in the order they appear in the problem. So let's jump in with some examples. -2 minus 3, parentheses 5 minus 7. Okay? According to PEMDAS, which, by the way, a little strategy that you could choose to use here is to jot PEMDAS along the side and then cross out as you go. So parentheses is what I'm supposed to look for first. I do have parentheses here, so I'm going to work from the inside of the parentheses. Nothing else changes right now. So inside the parentheses, 5 minus 7 is -2. I'm not removing the parentheses until I actually work with it. So the first step is done. Whatever's inside the parentheses are done. Okay, I can cross that off. Exponents. There are no exponents in this problem, so I can cross that off. Next would be the MD level, multiplication or division. I do see multiplication here, so I'm going to multiply either 3 times -2 and then keep the subtraction sign, or I'm going to read this as -3 times -2 and make it a +6. This depends on your comfort level with the signs, okay? But a negative times a negative should come out to be a positive. Okay, there's my multiplication. There is no division, so I'm done there. And now I have my last step of addition. So -2 plus 6 is a +4. All right, next example. Let's say I want to do -2 parentheses 2 minus 4 squared minus 3 parentheses 3 minus 5 close parentheses to the third. Again, you can put PEMDAS along the side if that helps. Parentheses first, and I have 2 sets. So I can actually work on both sets at the same time. So this is going to be -2 times -2 squared minus 3 times -2 to the third. Parentheses are now done. Now we do exponents. The exponent is only affecting what it's directly on. So this is just going to be on top of this -2. -2 squared is +4. So this is -2 times 4 minus 3 times, now we have -2 to the third. This is an odd power. So this is going to be -8. So now we've done our exponent step. Now we're at the multiplication division level. I see two sets of multiplication. I can do them at the same time. This is going to be -2 times 4, which is -8. This is going to be -3 times -8, which is plus 24. And then last but not least, we have addition here. And so this is going to be a +16 for our answer. Okay. You can check these with your calculator, but you need to make sure that you know the proper order, because if you type something incorrectly in your calculator, you need to have an intuition for whether that is right or wrong. So please make sure that you are trying to do these steps on your own. Next example, -24 divided by 8 times -3. All right, let's do the PEMDAS along the side. There are really no parentheses here because this is already a single number, so I'm done with that. There are no exponents here, so I'm done with that. Now I'm at the multiplication division level. Yes, I see multiplication, but there's division here also. I'm going to go from left to right, okay? So this is going to be -24 divided by 8 first. So that's going to be -3. Bring down the -3. And then -3 times -3 is +9. Okay? Please make sure that you think about the levels versus just doing multiplication blindly before division, because you want to make sure that these are really the same level. You're just going to work them from left to right when they appear in the problem. Next example. -5 minus 5, parentheses 2 minus 4 to the third, over -22 minus 3 times -5. Okay, yes, this looks more complicated. You are perfectly allowed to view the numerator separate from the denominator. So until you're done, you can view the top of this as one separate problem and the bottom as one separate problem. And you can just reset PEMDAS for each piece. So in the numerator, I would be focusing on 2 minus 4 first. So that's going to give me -5 minus 5 times -2 to the third. All I did was focus on the inside of the parentheses. Over. In the denominator, I can do a different step of PEMDAS, okay, because I'm doing it differently. In the denominator, I can do the multiplication first. So this is going to be -22, -3 times -5 is +15. If you find this more confusing, no one says that you have to do them both at once, okay? Focus on the numerator, get it evaluated, and then focus on the denominator and get that evaluated, okay? It's totally up to you. Then, back in the numerator, we have exponents next. So this is -5 minus 5 times -8 over, I can do, again, this separately. So -22 plus 15 is -7. Back up in the numerator, multiplication would come next. -5 times -8 is +40. -5 plus 40 now is 35. And now, last but not least, I do the final calculation, which is this division. And 35 divided by -7 is -5. Okay, a couple of things here. If you want to plug this into your calculator, I would recommend not plugging it in as this whole big problem, okay? And the reason for that is this numerator is a group by itself. So there's technically another set of parentheses or brackets here. And this denominator is a group by itself. So there's parentheses or brackets there. You have to separate them if you want to put it directly into your calculator. That's why I feel like it's a little bit easier just to evaluate them separately, either on your own or by plugging in each step into your calculator. Okay, but don't try to do too much at once. Now let's take a look at a new function called absolute value. So first we need to know what absolute value means. The definition of absolute value is the distance a number is from 0 on the number line. So let me draw a number line. And we know we have that natural symmetry around 0. So 1, 2, 3 going to the positive side, and then -1, -2, -3. Okay? Notice that it's a distance. It's being described as a distance. Distances are not negative. You can't say, I live -2 miles from school. Doesn't make any sense. So the value of an absolute value is always positive. The symbol for absolute value are 2 perfectly vertical lines. So this is your symbol for absolute value. This is basically asking how many spaces do I have to walk from 0 to get to 3? All right, that's 3 spaces. If I asked the absolute value of -3, it really is asking the same kind of question. How many spaces do I have to walk from 0 to get to -3? I still have to walk 3 spaces. And so the outcome is always positive. I've heard this described like a washing machine, okay? These vertical lines kind of look like a little washing machine. If you put clean clothes, which would be positive numbers, in the washing machine, they're still going to be positive, okay? But if I put dirty clothes or negative numbers in the washing machine, then they're still going to turn out positive because everything in a washing machine comes out clean, okay? So the result is always going to be positive. So let's do a quick calculation here. Let's say I want the absolute value of 2 minus 5. This is still a natural separation. It's a natural group. So I'm going to view them almost like parentheses. I have to do what's in here first. So this is going to be -3 when I work that out. And then I can do the absolute value function, and I will get a +3. If there is a negative sign out front of an absolute value, this doesn't get affected by the absolute value. It's going to come in at the end. So the absolute value of -4 is 4, but it's still negative because of that negative sign. Okay? And last but not least, you can have absolute values in an expression. And again, it's almost like parentheses, except you have to make sure you're always going to take the positive results. So this is going to be -3 minus 2, okay? Absolute value of -2, because that's what this first comes down to. But then the absolute value of -2 is 2. I'm switching that to parentheses now because I still have to remind myself that this is multiplication. Then I can do the multiplication, -3 minus 4, to get my final answer of -7. So this is all about just looking for grouping. There's even a push I've heard, instead of PEMDAS, to call it GEMDAS with a G. And that's because the G would stand for any kind of groupings, okay? That's why numerators and denominators are done separately, okay? That's why absolute value is done separately, okay? Any kind of grouping is always done first, okay? So there's lots of good practice on this. Go through and try some, and if you have any questions, please let me know. See you in the next video.